criminal liability. So for you and I to understand criminal law, criminal liability is the foundation, it's the basis. So now, what are the principles of criminal liability? There are 7 principles of criminal liability, namely legality, actus reus, causation, harm, mens reus, coincidence or concurrency of actus reus and mens reus, and the last one, which is a Latin maxim, nulla poena sine lege. So let's start with the first one, which is illegality, or which is legality. So under legality, this principle entails that there must be law for there to be crime. It is premised on a Latin maxim which states that nullam crimen sine lege, which means that there's no crime without law. Now, what does this mean? This means that a person cannot be criminally liable if his conduct is not prohibited by law at the time it was committed. So basically, what we are saying is that an offensive or bad behavior is not illegal unless it is criminalized by law or it is prohibited by law at the time it was committed. So the law prohibits non-retroactivity. Not only does the law say that there's no crime without law, but it also prohibits. It does not work retrospective. There's another maxim which states that nullam crimen sine lege praevia. Now, under this one, it simply means that if a person has done something, a person's conduct is not criminalized, you will not be held liable just because there is a new law which is criminalizing such conducts. So now, let's talk about actus reus. What about actus reus? This is a Latin terminology which means guilty act. So for there to be a crime, there must be actus reus. What are we saying? Criminal law deals with human conduct, colleagues. So for someone to be considered as to commit a crime, there must be a blameworthy conduct. What is the next principle of criminal liability? Causation. So under causation, we are saying that the blameworthy conduct of the defendant must cause harm. What do we mean by this? We're saying there must be a causal relation between the blameworthy conduct and the harm suffered. Under this one, colleagues, we're going to discuss it further when we start looking on the elements of a crime. But on this, we're just going to give a brief description of causation because we're talking about principles of criminal liability. Here it is just a principle. The second one is harm. For there to be a crime, there must be harm which is caused by an act. Now, it seems similar to causation, but this is an independent principle of criminal liability. Hear this. Harm, we are saying that for there to be a crime, the defendant's actions or conduct must cause harm to some legally protected value. So what do we mean by this? If, let's say, where I tell someone that you are stupid in public, that one, colleagues, is not a crime because it is not legally protected. This reminds me even to where we enter the sphere of thought, where there is a maxim which states that damnum sine injuria, damage suffered without violation of a legal right. However, that's thought. But here in criminal law, it's similar. The principle is same. The harm which is suffered should be legally protected. Now, let's go to the other principle, which is mens reas. Mens reas, this is a Latin terminology also. It means the guilty mind. So, for there to be a crime, there must be a guilty act, ill intent to commit the blameworthy conduct. However, there are exceptions to this rule, but we are going to discuss them further when we are on the elements of a crime. Here we are on principles of criminal liability. The other one is coincidence or concurrence of mens reas and actus reas. So, the actus reas should be accompanied by the guilty mind, guilty state of mind. What do we mean by this? Colleagues, for someone to be held criminally liable, there must be concurrence of the blameworthy conduct and the ill intent, which is mens rea. For instance, let's say someone is escaping from a storm and breaks into a shelter. Now, when he enters that shelter, he steals something. Definitely, he won't be held liable in burglary, but he will be held liable in theft. He has committed theft. Reason why he will not be considered to have committed burglary, because at the time of entry, he didn't have the intention to break in and steal. The case which establishes this principle is the case of Fagan versus the Metropolitan Police. This is an interesting case. You should look it up. We should appreciate how the House of Lords, the legal reasoning of the House of Lords. You should look at this case. Let's forge ahead. Let's go now to the Latin maxim, which is nulla poena sine lege. What does this maxim entail? This maxim dictates that there's no penalty, there's no punishment without law. So, for someone to be considered, for someone to commit a crime, if that person has been convicted, there must be a provision within the law which is providing or prescribing punishment. That's why here in Zambia, where you find that if someone has committed a crime of theft, in the penal code, there it will define theft. Not only it will define theft, but it will also give punishment. Because if there is no punishment, then people will not predict the outcome of their wrongdoings. So these are the 7 principles of criminal liability. Like, share, even comment, and see you in the next video.